Europe's trade chief stood in Paris and accused China of overcapacity, without saying China's name. The word sounds technical. It means Europe can't compete. Maros Sefcovic met China's negotiator on June 4 and said the EU needs a practical approach, not escalation. What he didn't say out loud, the EU is bleeding €1 billion in trade deficit every single day. Europe now exports less to China, an economy of 1.4 billion people, than it does to Switzerland, population 9 million. The accusation is that China subsidizes industries, dumps products, and overproduces to flood markets. Former EU Commissioner Cecilia Malmström called it an ever more aggressive China. But the critique mirrors exactly what Europe did for decades. Farm subsidies, local content rules, targeted industrial policy, every developed economy used them when it suited them. The difference is China did it at scale, and Europe can't match it. So Brussels is begging for talks while preparing accusations. 60 working groups are being streamlined into one mechanism. The meeting in Brussels later this month will determine whether overcapacity becomes a trade war or just another word both sides pretend to understand. Washington is urging Asian allies to increase defense spending to 3.5% of GDP to counter China's growing influence in the region. Analysts say this request is difficult to sell because Southeast Asian nations face competing budgetary priorities in infrastructure, healthcare, and education. The push comes as U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth emphasizes collective security amid rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific. The resistance reveals a fundamental gap between American security priorities and the domestic needs of Southeast Asian governments. This divergence signals the limits of U.S. influence in the region and reflects how economic development concerns often outweigh geopolitical alignment in Asia's strategic calculus. The Asia-Pacific region is projected to drive global retail sales over the next 5 years, according to business analysts tracking consumer markets. Despite ongoing conflict in the Middle East dampening consumer confidence in some sectors, the region's retail momentum remains strong. The forecast highlights Asia-Pacific's dominant position in global consumption patterns through 2029. This growth trajectory demonstrates Asia's economic resilience and its expanding role as the engine of global consumer demand. The region's ability to weather geopolitical shocks like the Middle East conflict underscores a structural shift in economic power from west to east, with implications for trade policy and corporate investment strategies worldwide.